It was 5:45 in the morning. The street was quiet. Shops were still closed. A woman named Ronki was walking fast to the bus stop, holding her small nylon bag of pure water to sell. Then she heard something. A baby was crying. The sound was soft but painful, like the baby was tired of crying. Ronki stopped. Her heart beat fast. She looked left, looked right, then followed the sound. Under a small table near a kiosk, she saw a black nylon bag. It moved. Ronki dropped her water and rushed there. She opened the bag. What she saw made her cry. A newborn baby. Tiny, dirty, shaking and alone. No note, no name. Just a baby with swollen eyes and no one around. Ronki carried the baby close to her chest. Who would do this? She said, crying. That morning, Ronki didn't go to the bus stop. She went home with the baby, and from that moment, her life changed forever. Ronki lived in one small room. No bed, just a mat on the floor and one small cupboard. She had no husband, no child, and no family. The room always felt cold and quiet. But today, it felt different. She cleaned the baby with warm water. She wrapped her in a clean wrapper. Then she sat down and cried, not because she was sad, but because she had never held a baby before. And now, one was sleeping in her arms like she belonged there. She named the baby Sade. That night, Ronki didn't sleep much. Sade cried every hour, and Ronki had to carry her, sing, and rock her to sleep. Her back was paining her, but she didn't complain. For the first time in years, Ronki smiled. Even when she was tired, she felt peace. Maybe God gave you to me, she whispered to Sad. Maybe this is my own blessing. From that night, Ronke stopped feeling alone. She had someone to live for. 3 days later, people in Ronke's compound started asking questions. Where did you carry this baby from? One woman asked with her arms crossed. Ronke didn't like the way they were looking at her. I found her on the street, she said. Some people didn't believe her. They whispered, saying she probably stole the baby. One man even said, go and report to the police or they will come for you. Ronke felt scared. She didn't want to lose Sade. She walked to the nearest police station with the baby tied to her back. She told the officer everything, where she found the baby, how she cried, and how no one was around. The officer wrote it down. Okay, madam, leave your number. If anyone comes to report a missing child, we will call you. Ronke nodded. As she left the station, her eyes were full of tears. Please don't let anyone come for her, she prayed quietly. She's mine now. Taking care of Sade was not easy. Ronke didn't have baby food. She didn't even have enough money. She used soft pap and small milk when she could afford it. Some days, she would drink Gary just to save money for Sade's food. Her body was getting thinner, but her love for Sade was growing bigger. She started doing extra work, washing clothes for people, sweeping shops, even carrying blocks on a site just to buy diapers. People mocked her. You no get husband, you no get job, and you carry baby? One woman laughed, but Ronke didn't answer them. Every time Sade smiled or held her finger with her tiny hand, Ronke knew she was doing the right thing. Even if her stomach was empty, her heart felt full. One cold night, Sade started coughing. Her nose was blocked and she was breathing fast. Ronke didn't sleep. She placed a warm towel on Sade's chest and carried her all night. The next morning, Sade was weaker. Her eyes looked tired. Ronke rushed her to a nearby chemist with shaking hands. Please help my baby, she cried. The chemist gave her some medicine and said she needs good food and rest. Ronke nodded and paid with the last 1,500 in her wrapper. That evening, she had no money left for food, but Sade was sleeping peacefully. Ronke sat beside her, holding her small hand. I'm sorry I can't give you much, she whispered, but I'll give you all my love. Then she laid down beside her and prayed the sickness would go away for good. Years passed. Sade started walking, then talking. She was full of life. Every corner of the room was filled with her small voice, singing or asking questions. Ronke was always tired but happy. One afternoon, while feeding her, Sadie looked at her with big eyes and said, "Mommy, thank you." Ronke froze. Her spoon dropped. Tears ran down her cheeks. She had waited so long to hear that word. "Say it again," she whispered. "Mommy," Sadie said, laughing. Ronke carried her and cried into her small bag. That night, she couldn't sleep. She just kept looking at Sadie and smiling. "Even if I never have money in this life," she said, "at least I have you." And for the first time in a long while, Ronke slept with peace in her heart. When Sadie turned 5, Ronke wanted her to go to school, but school money was hard to find. She begged the headmistress of a small school near their house. "Please let her start. I will pay small, she said. The woman looked at her and then at Sadie, who was smiling and holding Ronke's hand. "Okay," the woman said, "but don't owe too long." Ronke bought one second-hand uniform, a small bag, and borrowed a pair of black shoes. That morning, she dressed Sadie and walked her to school, holding her tight. "Be a good girl, okay?" she said. Sadie nodded and ran inside. Ronke stood by the gate, watching. She didn't leave until the bell rang. On her way home, she smiled. She was poor, but her child was in school. That was all that mattered. At school, Sadie was smart. She always had her hand up, answering questions. But when the teacher asked, "Who is your mommy?" she smiled and said, "My mommy is Ronke." Other kids started laughing. "Is that your real mommy?" one boy shouted. Sadie didn't understand. She ran home and asked, "Mommy, why did they say you are not my real mommy?" Ronke's heart broke. She sat Sadie down and looked into her eyes. "I may not be the one that gave birth to you," she said softly, "but I'm the one that stayed with you, fed you, and carried you when you cried." Sadie was quiet for a while, then hugged her tight. "You're my real mommy," she said. That night, Ronke looked at the stars and whispered, "Please, let no one ever come to take her from me." One Sunday morning, as Sadie and Ronke walked home from church, a woman standing by a shop kept looking at them. She wore a clean dress, held a small handbag, and had sad eyes. When Sadie ran ahead to chase a butterfly, the woman asked Ronke, "What's her name?" Ronke smiled, trying to walk away. "Sadie," she answered. The woman nodded slowly and watched Sadie laugh and jump around. "She looks like my daughter," she said quietly. Ronke felt something cold in her chest. "Sorry," she replied and walked away fast. That night, she couldn't sleep. She kept thinking of the woman's eyes. She had seen many people before, but this one felt different, like someone who had lost something very dear. 2 weeks passed. Ronke kept seeing that same woman around. At the market, near the school gate, even outside church. She never came close again, but she always looked at Sadie. Ronke started feeling scared. Her heart would beat fast anytime she saw her. One evening, she told a neighbor, "That woman is always watching us." The neighbor looked surprised. "You better be careful. Oh, what if she knows something?" That night, Ronke held Sadie tighter than usual. "No one will take you from me," she whispered while Sadie was sleeping. But deep inside her heart, a voice asked her, what if this woman knows the truth about Sadie? What if she is not just watching? What if she came to take her back? One hot afternoon, Ronke was washing clothes outside when she heard a knock on her door. Sadie was inside, singing to her dolls. Ronke stood up slowly, her hands wet with soap. When she opened the door, the same woman was standing there. Her eyes were red, like she had been crying. "Please," the woman said softly, "I need to talk to you." Ronke's heart dropped. She didn't say anything. The woman looked around, then pointed to Sadie playing inside. "That's my daughter," she said with shaking lips. Ronki's legs felt weak. She wanted to close the door, but her hand didn't move. She was taken from me when she was a baby, the woman said. I've been searching for 12 years. Ronki's eyes filled with tears. This was the moment she feared. It had come. Ronki stepped outside and closed the door behind her. She didn't want Sade to hear anything. Why now? Ronki asked, her voice low. The woman's name was Aisha. She pulled out a small photo from her bag. It was old and faded, but it showed a baby with the same small nose and ears as Sade. She was kidnapped from me when she was just 3 months old, Aisha said, crying. Ronki wiped her face. I found her by the roadside, wrapped in nylon. I went to the police. No one came forward. Aisha nodded. I've gone to over 50 stations. I only just saw her 2 weeks ago and followed her. Ronki's hands were shaking. She doesn't know you, she said. She only knows me. Aisha looked at her and said, but she came from me. Both women stood there, crying. One gave birth to Sade, the other raised her. Now, they were both fighting the same fear, losing her. That night, Ronki tried to act normal. She cooked, laughed, and helped Sade with her homework, but her smile was fake. Her hands were shaking when she passed the plate of rice. Sade looked at her closely. Mommy, are you sick? She asked. Ronki smiled. No, I'm fine, my baby. But while Ronki stepped outside to fetch water, Sade tiptoed to the door and listened. Aisha had come again. Just one chance, Aisha begged. Let me speak to her. I'm not trying to steal her. I just want her to know who I am. Ronki's voice shook. She's not ready. She doesn't even know she was adopted. Sade gasped. Adopted? Her chest started to beat fast. She stepped back from the door, eyes full of tears. Everything she knew was suddenly broken. Was Ronki not her real mommy? Sade sat on her mat, quiet. When Ronki came inside, she smiled and said, time to sleep. But Sade didn't move. She looked up and asked, are you not my real mommy? Ronki stopped. Her heart broke into pieces. Who told you that? She asked. Sade looked down. I heard you talking outside. You said I was adopted. Ronki sat beside her and held her hand. You are my child, she said softly. I may not have carried you in my stomach, but I carried you in my heart every day. Sade's lips shook. So the other woman, is she the one that gave birth to me? Ronki nodded slowly, tears falling. Sade looked away, her small heart confused. So which one is my real mommy? She asked. Ronki didn't have an answer. She just hugged her tight and cried silently. The next day, Sade didn't go to school. She sat between Ronki and Aisha at a small bench outside the house. Both women looked tired. Sade looked at Aisha and asked, why did you lose me? Aisha cried. Somebody took you when I was buying something. I looked for you every day for 12 years. Sade turned to Ronki. And you found me? Ronki nodded slowly. You were crying, alone. I couldn't leave you. Sade looked at both women. So one gave birth to me and one raised me? They both nodded. Sade looked down and said softly, can I have 2 mummies? Aisha's tears dropped. Ronki's hands shook. In that moment, both women knew they loved the same child, and the child loved them both. After that day, people in the compound started talking again. 2 women fighting over one child, they whispered. Some said Aisha came to take Sade by force. Others said Ronki planned to hide Sade forever. Children at school teased Sade. Who is your real mommy now? They laughed. Sade didn't answer. She just sat alone during break, quiet and sad. Ronki noticed the change. At night, Sade didn't talk much. She stopped singing. She looked confused. Ronki held her hand and said, don't mind what people say. You are loved. That's what matters. Aisha also came with new clothes and food. I just want to be part of your life, she said gently. Sade looked at her and smiled a little. But in her small heart, everything still felt heavy. She didn't know where she truly belonged. One hot afternoon, a letter came from the welfare office. Ronke opened it with shaking hands. The letter said someone had reported a case that Sade was a missing child and now her real mother had been found. They asked both women to come to the office with the child. Ronke sat down and cried. So they want to take her away from me? Aisha came that evening, holding the same letter. I didn't report, she said. Maybe someone from your compound did. They both sat outside in silence. Sade came out and sat on Ronke's lap. What's wrong? She asked. Ronke forced a smile. We're just going to see some people who want to help. But deep inside, she was scared. She had kept Sade safe for years. Now, she didn't know if she was going to lose her. The next morning, they went to the welfare office. The building was big and full of people. Ronke held Sade's hand tightly. Aisha walked beside them, quiet. Inside, an officer asked many questions. When did you find her? Did you report to police? Do you have any papers? Ronke showed the old paper from the station. The officer nodded. Then he asked Aisha for proof. She brought out a birth certificate and baby photo. The officer looked at them for a long time. The child belongs to Aisha by blood, he said. Ronke felt her chest break. But then the officer said, but the court must decide what is best for the child. Ronke looked up. So I still have a chance? She asked. The man nodded. Yes, we will hear from the child too. A few days later, they went to family courts. Sade wore a yellow gown and held both women's hands. Inside, the judge looked at her kindly and asked, do you know why you are here? Sade nodded. Because I have two mummies, the judge smiled softly. And do you love them both? Sade nodded again. Yes. Then the judge asked, if you could live with only one, who would you choose? Sade looked at Ronke, then at Aisha. Her lips shook. I don't want to choose. I want both. The room went quiet. The judge looked at the two women. Sometimes, love is not about blood, he said. Sometimes, it's about who stayed. Aisha wiped her tears. Ronke bent her head, crying. In that moment, Sade stood up and held both of them. Please don't make me choose, she begged. I just want my family. The judge looked at both women for a long time. Then he said, Sade will stay with Ronke since she has known her all her life, but Aisha will be part of her life from now on. Ronke's heart jumped. Aisha cried and nodded. Thank you, she whispered. Sade smiled and hugged them both tight. Now I have two mummies and no one can laugh at me again. Weeks passed. Aisha started visiting often. She helped with homework, brought food, and even fixed Sade's school fees. Ronke didn't complain. She shared everything. One Saturday, they all sat and ate rice together. Sade looked up and said, I'm the luckiest girl in the world. I have two mummies that love me. Ronke and Aisha looked at each other, smiled, and nodded. Even though the journey was hard, love brought them together. Sade's birthday was coming. She was turning 13. It would be the first one with both mothers in her life. Aisha came with a big cake and a shiny pink dress. You'll wear this tomorrow, she said, smiling. Sade screamed in joy. It's so beautiful. Ronke watched from the corner, her heart full but also scared. She had never bought big things like that. That night, Sade showed Ronke the dress. Do you like it, mommy? She asked. Ronke smiled and touched the soft cloth. Yes, my love, you look like a star. Sade hugged her. I want both of you to sing for me tomorrow. Ronke nodded slowly, trying to push down the fear in her heart, fear that she was slowly losing her little girl. The party was small but joyful. Some school friends came and neighbors too. Sade stood between Ronke and Aisha, cutting the cake with a big smile. Sing for me, she shouted. The two women looked at each other and laughed. Then, they sang together, their voices shaky but happy. Sade danced and played. Aisha took pictures. Ronke served food. When night came and the guests left, Sade sat between them and said, This was my best birthday ever. Ronke and Aisha looked at her, then looked at each other. Slowly, a friendship began to grow between them, not just because of Sade, but because they were both mothers trying their best. Weeks later, Ronke started coughing at night. She became weak. Aisha noticed and asked, "When last did you go to hospital?" Ronke shook her head. "No money, I'll be fine." But she didn't get better. Sid cried when she saw her mother too tired to cook or even talk much. Aisha took Ronke to the hospital herself and paid for tests. The doctor said it was a chest infection. She needs rest, food, and strong medicine, he said. Aisha bought everything. That night, Sade stayed beside Ronke's bed. "Please don't leave me," she whispered. Ronke smiled weakly. "I'm not going anywhere." Ronke was too sick to move for days. Aisha cleaned the house, cooked and bathed Sade. She even helped with homework. Sade looked at her one evening and said, "You're acting like mommy now." Aisha laughed softly. "I'm your mommy too, remember?" That night, Sid prayed out loud, "God, please heal mommy Ronke. I love her too much." Aisha wiped her eyes as she listened. In her heart, she felt something new, not just love for Sade, but respect and deep thanks for Ronke, the woman who raised her daughter with nothing but love. After 2 weeks, Ronke's health started coming back. She could walk around and smile again. One evening, she called Aisha. "Thank you," she said, holding her hand. "You could have taken her and left, but you stayed." Aisha nodded. "You saved her first. I'm only giving back what you gave." Sade walked in and saw them holding hands. She smiled and jumped on the bed. "Now both my mummies are strong." They all laughed. For the first time, the small house didn't feel poor. It felt full of care, healing, and something stronger than pain: unity. People in the compound stopped talking badly. They now greeted both women with smiles. "This child has brought peace," one neighbor said. At school, no one laughed at Sade again. Even her teacher said, "You're lucky to have two mummies who love you like this." Sade's results got better. She even came first in class. During prize giving day, both Ronke and Aisha came to clap for her. She stood on stage, smiled and said, "I thank both of my mothers. One gave me life, the other gave me love. I'm lucky to have both." One day, Sade saw an old photo of herself. When she was small and skinny, with torn clothes, she looked at Ronke. "Was that how I looked when you found me?" Ronke nodded slowly. "Yes, my love. You were cold, crying and alone." Sid hugged her tight. "Thank you for not walking away that day." Ronke kissed her head. "You saved me too," she said. "I was empty before you came." Aisha watched them quietly, tears in her eyes. She didn't speak. She just placed her hand gently on Ronke's shoulder. In silence, pain turned to peace. Said they wrote a letter at school. The teacher asked them to write to their future selves. Said they wrote, "Dear me, no matter what happens, never forget where you came from. You are strong because two women loved you. One found you, one fought for you. You are not broken, you are complete." She gave the letter to Ronke and Aisha to read. They both cried as they read it. Ronke hugged her and said, "You are the best thing that ever happened to us." Aisha nodded. "And we'll always be here, no matter what." Years passed. Said turned 18. She got admission to study nursing. She said, "I want to help people like Mommy Ronke, who stayed strong even when she was sick." Ronke smiled with pride. Aisha bought her a new bag for school. They both went to drop her off. At the school gate, Sade hugged both women tightly. "Everything I am came from both of you." She waved goodbye, tears in her eyes, but her heart was full. She didn't feel like she was leaving two mothers. She felt like she was carrying both of them with her. Many years later, Sade became a nurse. She came back to visit often. On her wall at home, there were two big framed pictures, one of Ronke carrying her as a baby, one of Aisha holding her at graduation. People would always ask, "Who is your real mother?" She would smile and answer, "They both are." Because one woman gave her life and one gave her a reason to live. And in the end, it wasn't about blood, it was about love. Two mothers, one child, and a bond that nothing, not even the past, could ever break.